In this lesson, we will pose the character getting distracted and then being struck. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the next frame, which is frame 30. And here we can refer to our thumbnails. So here the wolf is going to look at his hand, he's getting distracted. Then the following pose is when he is finally struck. Alright, so let's go ahead and get right to work. On frame 30, let's go back to our user camera. We'll start by grabbing the right arm. Let's go ahead and rotate that up. All right, great. We'll make sure that the palm is faced upward. For the character's head, let's go ahead and have him look down. So start to rotate the head control, the neck. I find a cool trick is to go in and actually zero out the neck and head at times so we could start at their neutral pose. It might help to pose faster so we're not dealing with any weird values. So a lot of times when we're dealing with those values, we can run into gimbal lock if we're not careful, so it might help to reset things at times. So I've just brought up the neck a bit. You can go ahead and grab the head control and have that look down some. Add more of a tilt so he looks curious. And then we can go ahead and start to bring up the torso a bit. Maybe rotate it to straighten it out in the y-axis, just a bit, not much. Can go to his back control. We're basically lifting up his torso since that arm is coming up. We want it to be slight. We'll go ahead and lift up the center of gravity as well. And given the direction that the arm is lifting up in, we can also take the center of gravity and kind of shift the character over to the left slightly. I'll go ahead and grab the left arm control and do the same thing, kind of just shift him over a bit. Great, let's go ahead and take a look at 30. All right, great, so that's working out well. I'll go ahead and grab the control object and kind of adjust that. The arm control, that is. Just making sure the palm has a natural disposition. You can go ahead and grab the head control and have that look at the palm a bit more. And then we can take a look at this from multiple angles just to make sure we're pleased with the pose. So it looks like the neck is up way too much. I'll go ahead and just drop that down. That looks good. Let's go ahead and take a look at our shot camera. Okay, so I have this key here on 31. No worries, I'll go ahead and shift select the key on 30, right click and delete, and move that key on 31 over to 30. All right, so from the shot camera, let's go ahead and take a closer look. I'd almost like to tilt the chest a bit more. Let's go ahead and show our curves from the shot camera. There's no reason why we can't tweak from this view. We should at times. It can get kind of difficult because we are really just concerned here with 2 dimensions, so it's kind of hard to tweak in the 3rd dimension from our shot camera. But we can tweak things here and there. So we most certainly can go in and add a tilt, and then we can go in and hide our curves just to make sure we like the pose. I kind of like that. All right, so once we have this, then we could start to kind of clean it up a bit. So going back to the right arm, I'd almost like to take that clavicle and just drop that a bit. Looks like it was brought up a bit too high. And then for the elbow, that's going to be tucked in closer to the body a bit more. Let's do that. For the hand, let's go ahead and grab that arm control and just add more rotation to make sure that the wrist isn't broken. And then we'll want to take the fingers and open them out just a bit more. So here we want more of a spread in the fingers. We want to open them up. So it looks as if the creature is either looking at his nails or maybe something's itching him on his hand, so he just wants to figure out what it is. We can go ahead and open up the thumb a bit more and curl the fingers out. So here you can really have fun. You can kind of pick what finger the wolf might be examining and have that curled in a bit more if he's looking at his nail. Then the others we can curl out a bit more. Always look for ways to create a fun pose. Remember, we're adding a really fun story and interesting life to the characters we animate. All right, I'd say that's going to work out well. You can go ahead and scrub through and just take a look. All right, very fun. Might go ahead and take the left wrist. Being that the body's kind of shifting a bit to his left, we can rotate it slightly, very slightly in the opposite direction, away from the thigh, just for a bit of drag here. And then we can add some drag to the fingers, kind of curling them in just a bit. Remember that the hands won't be too noticeable, so you don't always have to go to these mid and end sections and adjust them. You can if you like. It really depends on your framing. I find that it helps just to add a slight change so that the pose is already there. And we've talked about this already, but it's just to make sure that by the time we get to our polish pass, we don't have much to tweak. Your blocking pass is about 80% of your entire animation. That's how important it is, in my opinion. Okay. So I'd say that is going to work out very well. Let's go ahead and work on the next pose where the creature is finally hit. And that's going to happen on frame 40. So you can see that the laser is a bit off, but no worries. We can always tweak that. Let's go to our shot camera. Let's also go to our scenes tab. We'll scroll down until we get to the set layer, and let's go to make sure it's selectable. So now we'll go ahead and just find the laser, and let's make sure that the creature is struck at the right time. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on the timeline, and I'll set this show keys option to keyboard parameters, so that will reveal the keyframes of this laser. Since the creature is getting struck on frame 40, we can go ahead and highlight all of those keys and slide them over so that the strike happens at the right time, right there on 40. All right, great. So once we've double-checked that, we can now right-click on our timeline again and set this back to current character set. And now, staying on frame 40, can go back to our user camera, and we can go ahead and finish up by working on the strike now. Let's go ahead and grab all of the controls we need to translate the creature over with. So that's the arms, the legs, elbows, knees. Hold down shift and grab these two knee controls. We'll grab the center of gravity. And let's go ahead and start to slide the character over. All right, great. So we can scrub through just to make sure that we like the timing here. And making sure that he has moved as far as he needs to. And when I refer to timing in this case, it's just making sure that he is kind of lined up with this laser. I'm going to go ahead and grab the center of gravity, and all of these controls we still have selected, and just translate them up just a little bit so he kind of lifts before he starts to fall. Not much though, because we need to also consider the creature's weight. He's pretty massive, pretty heavy. So we don't want him moving in a way that would feel very light, because that would be wrong. So we'll go ahead and start to twist him around in the y-axis, maybe drop him back in the x, maybe drop down the center of gravity a bit here, kind of push him back a little, adding a twist to the torso here. Again, we can go to our chest control, zero that out. If you find that to be more helpful when posing this, we'll go ahead and zero out the back control as well. And then we could start to bring down the chest and add more of a twist. Let's take a look at our shot camera as well, just to make sure our pose is coming together the way we'd like it to. So it looks like for the center of gravity, It's to be more of a tilt down in the Z-axis. Great. I'll go to the net control and zero that out. Do the same thing for the creature's head control. All right. And then from there, we can take the head and just kind of drop that for drag. So as he's getting pushed back, we want the head to rotate back here. All right, let's start to fix this up a bit more. We're going to grab his left arm. And looking at our thumbnail, we'll want to most certainly go ahead and just grab that arm and kind of bring it up a bit more. We're looking at the silhouette, so we most certainly want to go ahead and pose the fingers in a way where we have a very strong pose that reflects the force at which he's getting struck with. So we can do that by really pushing the silhouette of the fingers, creating a very strong line of action in each of them to reflect the force at which he's getting struck with. But before we get to that, again, we're just going in and we're just kind of posing the arms a bit here, just making sure that the rest of the body is taken care of before we get to the smaller areas. I'm going to grab his elbow control. Go ahead and swing that around for the right arm. Great. We'll go ahead and move to his left leg. Let's go ahead and bring that up. And for drag, we'll want the ankle to point down. Great. Let's go ahead and take the left knee. We're just about done here. Let's go ahead and lift that up. Great. And now we can go back to our left leg and kind of just bring that up a bit more. And let's go ahead and pose the right leg. You can see it's still planted. No, I don't think that pose is correct. So let's go ahead and start to tweak this. And again, we'll add some drag by rotating the ankle down. We want to think about twinning, so we don't want our legs to be matched to one another. We can go ahead and add more of a squash to the right leg. Just bringing that in a bit. And more of a stretch to the left leg. Again, we're thinking about our 12 principles here. That most certainly applies to gestures. Okay, what I'd like to do is take the back control and bring that back just a bit more, and then curve the chest in to really push the arch in the back for that exaggerated line of action that we found appealing in our thumbnail. Start to pose the head the same way, kind of take the right clavicle, drop that down a bit, and then I'll go ahead and twist the right wrist so it's not parallel to the camera, so we have more of an interesting angle. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and scrub through and take a look. Boom! All right, so he's getting struck here. All right, now it's just a matter of going in and tweaking our fingers. So again, we want to push the silhouette here to show the intensity he's getting struck with. So we can go ahead and really start to create some interesting lines of action, some interesting angles here. You can see just brought up the index, added a really interesting bend. We can do the same thing for the mid finger, kind of bring that up. Maybe bend that down a bit more, bend the end up. And see for the pinky, we can go ahead and curl that down some more. And take a look at the pose we end up with. Very exciting, very fun. We can go ahead and do the same thing for the thumb. Rotate that down to push the pose here. Rotate the end back. Very fun. All right, so we can do the same thing for the right hand. We're just aiming for more interesting pose here. So I'll quickly go in and kind of pose that. And you can curl the fingers however you'd like. I might just go in and curl just a few of these. And just experiment. That's another part of animation, just experimenting with our poses to see if we can come up with something fun and creative. Great. Now for the thumb, I'll just go ahead and, again, just rotate that down a bit. Rotate it out, and then kind of rotate the end back for force. All right, there we have it. So we have worked on our next set of extremes. These are looking very fun. Let's go ahead and move on to the next lesson. We only have a few more extremes to go before we are finished up. We're making great progress.